You're listening to Shoe In, covering the ins and outs of all things footwear, from sneakers to heels, loafers to slippers, and every type of shoe in between. Brought to you by the FDRA, the Footwear Industries Association focused on retail, trade, politics, and fashion, helping create and enhance conversations on all things footwear. And now your footwear insiders, Matt Priest and Andy Polk.
Welcome back, all our footwear family and fans, to the Footwear Industries podcast, where we talk to leaders across the industry about how our business models are changing, how our workforce is shifting, how our consumer behaviors are all over the place, and somehow, we continue to make fantastic shoes and sell shoes all over the world. Matt, how are you doing today?
Hey, Andy, what's up, man? I'm doing fine. This is a unique experience. We've never done this before. You can explain to our listeners what the deal is, but nevertheless, you're coming in loud and clear, and it's good to be with you, my friend.
Awesome. And Jasmine, how are you doing?
Great. This has been an interesting time, but it's been good.
That's right. Folks, for the first time ever, we are recording this podcast from 5 different locations across the United States on one platform beamed into our studio. So it's something that, for us, just like many other people who are dealing with the coronavirus impact, for the health and safety of staff, we decided to tape remotely. So for the first time, as Matt was saying, I can't look into Matt's eyes and see his soul, just like President Bush did to Vladimir Putin. I don't know if I'm Putin or if Matt's Putin, but it makes it a little bit interesting to go through this because typically we'll have hand motions on who wants the next question. So hopefully this all works out. But I'm super excited because when we talk about the footwear industry and we talk about retail and we talk about product, there's a few companies that come to mind around that, and one of those is Foot Locker.
Yeah, for sure, Andy. And so to have Dick Johnson, who's the chairman, CEO, and president of Foot Locker, on our first ever remote podcast taping on Shoe and Show is a distinct honor and privilege. So, Dick, welcome to Shoe In. Thanks for bearing with us, and we're so happy to have you on with us.
Yeah, good to be here today, guys. It is a unique time for all of us, and we're encouraging all of our office team to work from home as well. So I'm down in our home in Naples, Florida, working this week down here. So glad to be able to take the call and participate in the conversation.
Well, great. So let's start this thing off on the right foot, Dick, because one of the things we wanted to do, and we've been doing over the last week or so, is that normally at our executive summit in DC, which you've attended before and spoken at, we award our top performers in a variety of different categories, and it's advocacy, and it's retail sales, it's innovation and collaboration. And so for the first time ever, we are awarding an award over Shoe and Show as we honor Foot Locker as the 2019 top performer of our sales survey.
All right.
For those who don't know, we have a number of members who submit their ongoing sales reports and their comps to us weekly, and then we put those together in a way that does not show whose sales belong to which company. We send that out so people understand what's going on in the marketplace. And Foot Locker was our top performer in 2019. So, Dick, congratulations. We'll put the plaque in the mail to you up to New York, but many congrats on a great year last year.
Well, thanks, guys. I really, truly appreciate it. And it's an honor for the team. Clearly, we are fueled by the team that is in the stores and taking digital orders across our platforms. And, we have the incredible privilege of selling other brands' products through an incredible experience with our consumers. And, I think that our focus on customer engagement, our partners' focus on creating great product and great stories did lead to a pretty positive footwear year for us. And, as we reported, our fourth quarter and annual results at the end of February, it wasn't exactly the year that we had laid out, but, I think our footwear team did a tremendous job, and I think our vendor partners deserve a lot of credit along the way. So thanks very much to FDRA and to you both for presenting the award over this podcast. Truly appreciate it.
No problem. It's well deserved. And so as you talk about your team, Dick, talk to us about what's currently going on in your mind as it relates to the virus. Stores have been closing for certain brands. You spoke at the start of the podcast about headquarters personnel and making sure that they're protected. But how, for a company that has so much retail space and wants to continue to engage with the consumer, what is your strategy over the coming, 2-3 months as we face this virus?
Well, I think it's, the most unique times that I've ever been involved in this industry. And clearly there are places where our strategy is inconsequential in a country like Italy, where we have a high store concentration, but the entire country is quarantined. So because we're not a pharmacy and we're not a supermarket, our doors there are closed, and we're taking care of our employees and doing those things. So our intent is to focus on our customers and our employees and make sure they're as safe as can be. We today continue to operate our stores. We're seeing some mall developers come out with restricted hours or reduced hours across their properties. We're looking at those opportunities. And we're closing stores where it's mandated by government law, or by the local government, I should say. And, as much as we want to engage with our consumer, we realize that over the next number of weeks, however many that is, there will certainly be a lot of digital engagement. The physical engagement through stores will likely be somewhat limited. So again, it's a unique time, and we're on many phone calls every day trying to sort out the right steps forward in each of our big geographies, and within those big geographies, the smaller local markets. So there's nothing that's I could tell you today that wouldn't change by the time this podcast is over, probably. Yeah. So we keep in close contact, even though we're all remote, and we're trying to focus on the safety of our consumers and our customers.
Yeah, when you're talking about unique times, I think not too long ago we were talking about unique times around tariffs and challenges around cost increases on Chinese goods due to the trade war. And then all of a sudden, this is sort of a double whammy to what we have. And I think, some people can be very negative, but I think ultimately we all need to stay positive, because the rule of crises are it will end, right? Crises all end. And so, a lot of brands right now are scrambling to do what's right, as you said, for their customers and their workers. But it also, in some ways, even though we're going to see revenue hits for every industry, there's some good opportunities, I would think, for strategizing about coming out of this stronger. It seems a lot of people are using more digital tools. It seems like there'll be a lot more e-commerce sales while people are sitting in their houses trying to, get along with their spouses and their kids in ways they haven't in the past. So there could be a lot of opportunities, Dick, for growth with e-commerce. And then at the same time, we've seen, the factories are back to work in China now, which means hopefully by the time we get through this in several weeks, we'll see new product flowing in, and we'll have a bang up spring like we've never seen. At least that's the hope. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Well, I'm pretty much aligned, Andy. I think as things get back to normal in the factories, I fully anticipate that we'll see some hiccups in supply chain, and flow of goods as things just are not going to work as efficiently as before, at least for the time being. And I look at our ability to engage with our consumers and speak to them digitally, and that's something that we take a great deal of pride in. Is our core consumer is on their phone or on their personal devices constantly. So our first point of engagement is always digital with our consumer. And if they choose to come to the store and buy, that's great. If they choose to click and buy now, that's great as well. So I do believe that we'll continue to see a bit of an uptick in our digital business and direct-to-consumer business. Then everybody's having to learn a new way of doing things. So I'm not sure exactly how long it'll be. I'm not sure how it'll shake out, but I think those that are strong and have strong balance sheets will certainly navigate through it. And I'm in agreement with you, Andy, that crises do end. You have to navigate through that time period, and I look at a myriad of opportunities in front of us, and the strength that we are the strength that we have as a company will allow us to come out even stronger, is my opinion.
Yeah, and let me just ask you about your positioning for digital assets. I mean, obviously, over the last 5 years or so, a lot of companies have been putting money to digital assets, direct to consumer, e-commerce, all these different things that we're talking about. But Foot Locker's really been a leader in this space of trying to make sure that however your customer wants their shoes, that you can get it to them. What, from your perspective, being in the industry for so long, what kind of talent is needed for back-end operations like that? Because I think so often we think of Foot Locker, we think of, really good managers on the floor and really good sales staff grabbing product, talking to people about it. Digital is a bit different. You can engage with it in a different way, but sometimes we forget that in our industry, we're adding people that we've never added before, like data scientists and coders and programmers. And maybe just take us through that a little bit about how, when you look at your workforce, how it's changing pretty dramatically at this point.
Yeah, I think it is a different capability and skill set that we're all recruiting and looking for. I mean, it's hard to believe that that the data science world has become some of the most attractive jobs in the world at this point. And they're working at solving big problems and working with tons of data to come up with business solutions. So again, we've added data scientists. We've certainly added digital marketers. We've added people that have a great skills in terms of being able to engage with consumers digitally, both from a graphic perspective and a storytelling perspective. We've got a really strong direct-to-consumer back end that the Woolworth Company bought back in 1997 when they bought eSpace. So we've actually been in this DTC business for a long, long time, and we've continued to invest in that to make sure that from the taking the order, picking the order, packing the order, shipping the order, that we're really efficient. But there's a whole lot of new skills, right? I think product is still product, and our merchant team is really strong in how they tell those stories, whether it be digitally or physically in the stores. I think our team does that well. But Andy, you hit on a lot of the talent capabilities that we're all recruiting and all bringing in. And the beauty is that our workforce is very flexible in terms of training. So we have some folks that have been with us for a number of years that say, hey, this digital space is really exciting. I want to learn some of that. They've gone back to school. We've provided education. They jump into the digital side of the business, and they move straight forward. So it's an exciting time from that perspective. But we still continue to believe that brick and mortar retailing is just so critical to the future. And our consumer likes to be in our stores, and that's why we continue to invest in stores. We co-invested in a community-based power store up in Washington Heights here in New York City. Up on 181st Street, we've got a significant effort with our partners at Nike to really create a connected community store that services the consumer, and it's got a lot of digital elements, but it's physically a great space up on 181st Street. And I think that's how we win going forward, is to mix great digital talent and digital skills along with the best team in retail on the sales floor, certainly, that you pointed out earlier, Andy. So it's such a great time to be in this space and be combining those digital assets and skills with the great physical presence that we've got.
Dick, I'm glad you brought up brick and mortar, because I'm an old school guy. I love brick and mortar, and as you and I have talked about, I grew up going to Foot Locker. I grew up idolizing the men and women who were in the black and white stripe tops, selling me, the Jordan 1s or the Jordan 2s or Jordan 3s or whatever my dad would be willing to pick up for me. Seeing that backboard hanging above the register with all the local sports stars who had signed it, who'd come in and signed that backboard. So for me, the brick and mortar experience is so important. talk to us more about how you're envisioning brick and mortar going forward, the overall experience element as it relates to consumers coming in. You've talked about sneaker cleaning operations. You just mentioned the partnership with Nike and Washington Heights. You've got the House of Hoops. You've got all these different things you're focused on. And how do you kind of, what's the future look like for brick and mortar beyond what you've discussed? And then how do you bifurcate between what you do in Foot Locker versus what you do in Champs?
Well, that's a whole lot of question there, Matt. There's a lot of moving parts there, but clearly the closer we can get to the community and the more we can get engaged with the community in our physical spaces, the better off we are. The vast majority of the people that work in our 8 Mile store in Detroit or our Power community stores in Philadelphia or up on 181st Street, they're of the community. So they know the consumers that are walking in, their friends. We bring in local suppliers. That maybe it's a small little T-shirt company or a headwear company that people up in the Heights know, or people around 8 Mile know in Detroit, and we feature their product. We give them a platform to go out and sell, and expose themselves to a broader marketplace. So again, it's about connecting with that local community. It's about making sure that the space feels good. We have a number of kids in our community-based power stores that come in after school, and it's a space that they feel safe in, and they can sit and do their homework. They hang out with each other. They don't get hassled by our associates, and they use the space as sort of a bit of a gathering area. And they're around cool product. And to your point, the associates, the stripers, or the team in blue at Champs, or our Foot Action associates are there, and they'll show them cool product if they want to see it. But it's a space that they call theirs, which I think is one of the coolest parts about these stores that are so community based. So, and I think the difference between Foot Locker, Foot Action, and Champs, a lot of it comes through the presentation and the physical space and the look. If you think about our Champ stores, we run most of our Champ stores. We run footwear down the center of the store on bleachers, and that's designed to put some heat around the apparel product that's hung around the walls of the store. And so there's a lot of similar product on the footwear side, but Champs does a great business in apparel. Foot Action does a good business in apparel as well, but it's a different blend of apparel. And Foot Locker's got the standard T-shirt, short, fleece, sort of the uniform things for our consumer. So the physical space sort of mirrors that consumer journey that each of those different consumers for each of those brands is looking for. And I think they each feel unique, even though there is a tremendous amount of product. There's a certain amount of product that is the same in all three banners.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I guess, as we think about fashion for a minute, let's kind of move away from the business side and think more about what's fashionable out there. All we hear about is athleisure, and all we hear about are different styles and colorways and silhouettes that push us towards more of this athleisure trend and maybe away from the technical needs for a pair of running shoes or a pair of basketball shoes. From where you sit, Dick, as the head of the most successful athletic footwear retailer in history, where are we as it relates to fashion of footwear in the athletic space? Because you'll hear people like Matt Powell and others talk about the functionality side is dead, or certain basketball trends have started to taper off. But from where I sit, the top sellers are in the country are always Nike, Jordan, Adidas, which all plays into your product mix. So where are we as it relates to the fashion space, or as it relates to what's popular with consumers these days?
Yeah, I think it's a lot about style, Matt, quite honestly. And, our team is blessed to work in a category that kids see as both function and fashion. The truth is that not all that many of the basketball shoes that we sell ever see the court, but our consumer feels good about them. And there was a day when the influencers were really the athletes. So whether it be, the guys that play on the court, in Europe, the players that are on the pitch playing soccer, or people that are out there, they're running miles. But for our consumer, it really is about the style cues that the footwear gives them. So, is it fashion? Is it style-led? You can call it what you will, but the fact is that our consumer sort of defines their persona by the sneakers that they wear, and it fluctuates between a casual look, a more sporty look, a running look versus a basketball look. And I don't know that we should necessarily feel bad that it's less function today than it is lifestyle or style led. It fundamentally in our consumer's mind doesn't make any difference. They may go play basketball, they may go run some miles, but the truth is that it's all about what makes them feel comfortable and how they define their personal style. So I think it is much more lifestyle led today than necessarily athletic led, but it all comes out of the athletic world for us, right? So, whether the influencers are now musicians, whether the influencers are chefs, whether they're just Instagrammers, whatever it happens to be, our core consumer takes cues from all of those people. And it used to be easy just to be dependent on the athletes to sort of endorse and talk about products. But now it's a much broader array and a much bigger social following that these influencers have that our consumers pay attention to.
I think, going back to previous comment you made, Dick, about community, I don't think a lot of people are talking about that and should be. And maybe if you're going to pinpoint success, I think anytime you talk about community, I mean, especially in time like this, I was just out at the grocery store the other day. I was on the bread aisle. There's no bread. And yet everybody was talking to each other and being a lot more friendly. So even at a time of great stress with everybody, community comes together, and it's a different thing when we talk about community versus consumer. And so I'm really impressed that you guys are talking in those terms, whereas a lot of retailers, we may not hear that. And I'm really impressed too, because I think we get really caught up in this data stuff. Facebook is like the ultimate data generator. It's got all this stuff. It's got your whole profile. And we get so caught up in the knowledge of the consumer that we forget knowledge and wisdom are not exactly the same thing. And I think brick and mortar, to your point, is so important to our industry because it gives us the wisdom as to why that kid wants to buy that shoe. You get a guy on the front lines asking them questions about it. You get a guy on the front lines knowing a friend that's doing something really unique in the community can bring it into the store and kind of have this interaction that we don't really see on digital. So when we talk about brick and mortar dying, it just seems to be morphing and transforming. And as long as people have this idea of community, there'll always be a need to gather and have this space. So I think that's really, I just wanted to talk about that because I think it's a really important point that we don't talk enough about the consumer versus the community. So kudos to you guys. I mean, it's obvious why you guys are doing so well. What about when you look at international community? We talk a lot about the U.S. sector. Do you guys have a lot of plans for growth outside the U.S.? And when you consider outside the U.S., is it completely different, like cultural appeal to how you build stores or think about, delivering product to consumers?
Yeah, it varies market by market, Andy, and I appreciate the comments. So thank you very much. We have a strong business across Western Europe. We operate in most countries in Western Europe and have, Foot Locker, Kids Foot Locker, Runners Point, Sidestep stores, across the big countries in certainly in Germany, where we've got all of those banners. And we think there's still growth opportunities in Western Europe as well as the UK. So we continue to look at how we connect with communities there, because it is a different cadence there than necessarily in the US. Even by country in Western Europe, it's different. We've talked publicly about our desire to grow our business in Asia. We've stuck our toe in the water in Hong Kong, Singapore, and Malaysia. And we continue to see great opportunities there. Now, obviously, with some of the demonstrations that went on in Hong Kong last year, and now the coronavirus issue coming out of China, we've got to be very careful about that expansion there. But we certainly continue to believe that it's a market that we belong in, the consumer understands Foot Locker, and we can connect with the local communities there. And then we've got a really solid business down in Australia and New Zealand. And, we continue to believe that there's growth opportunities there. It's, again, a little bit of a different market in that the population centers are very concentrated, and we've got good store presence, but we continue to look for ways to connect with the local community across Australia and New Zealand as well. And the same in Canada, right? We sort of sometimes lump Canada in with the U.S. and just refer to it as North America. But the work that our team up in Canada is doing in the key metropolitan centers, the key urban centers in Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver, and across the prairies as well. We've got a good business there. So we continue to think there's opportunity in the U.S., but global, international expansion continues to provide us great opportunities as well.
Great. Thank you.
All right. So as we close out, Dick, we want to bring in Jasmine for one of her world famous segments. Jasmine, I think you're gonna come on and do what you got, what you getting. Is that right?
Yes. So for if you don't know, Dick, we do what you got, what you're getting, which is what we have on our feet currently and what we plan to get in the future. So I will start by saying I have worn nothing but slippers for the past 72 hours.
Honesty.
So I've been in that, but since the weather is getting warmer, I do plan on buying some low top Air Force Ones for sure, because that's like an annual purchase for me. So excited about buying that.
Gotta have the uptowns without a doubt, Jasmine.
Okay. You always have to have both, just for variations.
So I will go next. So I'm currently wearing a pair of knit upper Champion shoes, because Champion's one of those brands that was big when I was in high school and before, and now it's back in a big, big way. Everywhere you go, you see Champion. So I'm rocking some Champions. And my goal, my hope is that I can get some of the Nike Adapt BBs, the basketball self-lacing shoes. I'm in my mid-40s, so playing basketball is less and less of an option for me, but I can still look cool and my shoes will self-lace. And so that's my plan, is to get some Nike Adapts at some point.
What about you, Dick? What are you wearing?
Are you up next or me? Well, I'll go then. So on my feet right now, I'm going to tell you that I'm wearing a pair of Ophos recovery slides. But this morning, since I've got a little bit different commute, such as working at home, I was out for a run with my wife, and I wore a pair of On Clouds.
Oh, nice.
Very, very comfortable running shoe for me. And then just knocking around the house, I'm in my Ophos recovery slides.
Nice. Awesome. There you go. There you have it. What the Foot Locker CEO is putting on his feet.
Right.
Awesome. For me, as everybody knows who listens, I don't buy a lot of product, and that gets me looks from Jasmine and Matt all the time. But I'm just wearing Fila around the house right now. I had to run down and put the garbage can down, so I slid those on real quick. And then I just got in. This is nice. I just got in some new Adidas Boost.
Oh, cool. Good.
It's your go-to.
Buy something. It's like the fourth pair I've bought, but for my feet, it just is an amazing technology they've created that I haven't really, for me, it works. It's awesome. So
that is awesome.
A big guy like me. Yeah. So awesome. Well, Dick, thank you so much for joining us, and congratulations again on being our Sales Survey Award winner for 2019.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah,
thanks for stay healthy.
Yeah, thanks for staying engaged and being a leader in our industry and helping participate in fighting the tariffs, and also leading the way on responding to helping protect customers and your workforce as we go through all this together. So thanks again for your leadership.
All righty, guys.
Thank you. Yep. Folks, this is Shoe In Show. We're covering all things of footwear. You can go check us out on shoeinshow.com. You can drop a line. We now have a fancy little voice note on the bottom left side of the website where you can actually leave us a voice note. We'll get those, and we may even play it on air. You can ask us questions. You can give comments on the shows. Definitely download on iTunes, Spotify. You can rate us. But we really appreciate you guys tuning in, and hopefully you've learned something new. Every time we do a podcast, I learn something new. And on behalf of Matt and Jasmine, who are in their respective homes, and I'm in my soccer cave, I want to thank you for listening to Shoe In. Be safe. Keep buying shoes. E-commerce sites are up. Keep going. And until next time, Shoe In is out.
Shoe In has been brought to you by the FDRA, the Footwear Industries Association focused on retail, trade, politics, and fashion, helping create and enhance conversations on all things footwear. For information about FDRA, visit fdra.org.